What's up guys, my name is Wang and today I have a pretty special video for you. I recently got interested in building my own keyboard, and after months of research and waiting on waiting lists and for the parts to come in, I finally got to assemble my very own 65% custom Tofu keyboard. As you can see here, the switches I'm using are the Glorious Pandas, not to be confused with the Holy Pandas, although they are essentially the same thing. They are a nice tactile switch with a 67 gram actuation force, which occurs right at the start of your downstroke. I bought a key switch opener from KBDFans, which came in really handy since this was my first build, although I definitely struggled a little bit to get started. I lubed them with Krytox 205 grade 0, which I had to be pretty careful not to overdo, as this could definitely ruin the feel of a tactile switch, being a more viscous lubricant in nature. A lot of people recommended the Tribosis 3203 instead, but I had heard so many good things about Krytox that I wanted to try it for myself. One of the biggest things to be careful of is to not lube that metal part, as it's responsible for the tactile bump, which is why we got the tactile switches in the first place. With these, you don't want to lube the entire spring as well, since it would also take away from that bump, so we only lubed around the top where it makes contact with that upper half. With the top piece, we want to lube the arms as well as the back, but making extremely sure not to lube the little legs that stick out that are making contact with the metal clip on the bottom half, as that again would take away from the bump that we want to feel. I also put a little lube on the stem just to help it slide. Once it's all lubed up, it can be reassembled, making sure that the open slit is on the opposite side of the bump mechanism. For the very little amount of lube that was applied, it definitely feels like a brand new switch. There they are, all done after 4 hours. Next, we move on to the stabilizers, which gave me the most trouble. A very common modification for these is called the Band-Aid mod, where a Band-Aid is literally used to soften the downstroke for your stabilized keys. To begin doing this modification, you need to cut off the little legs that have a point that would ultimately smack into your keyboard. By removing these, we will cause less noise and less damage to our PCB over time. I watched the guide Taya Types put out, which walks you through this in great detail. I put some lubricant on the inside of the larger piece where it makes contact with the inner piece. Sorry about the camera angle, by the way, I was hyper-focused at this point. I then reassembled the legs back together and then started on applying some dielectric grease to the wire that feeds into the stabilizer unit for overall smoothness. Now we have a perfectly lubed stabilizer. Here is my board with all the stabs on it, and it's worth mentioning that I put down some of the soft sticker pads that KBDFans sells instead of literal band-aids, with some dielectric grease spread on top to cushion the impact of the stab to the PCB. Here we have the 65% Tofu case in black with foam inside, and the back plate looks so clean with that gold brass weight inside of it. I also opted to get a brass plate, which really helps dampen the sound and also looks extremely premium. Here is my board with all of the switches mounted on the plate and on my hot swap PCB. When plugged in, the default RGB setting is that rainbow glow, which shines through the slit in the front of the Glorious Panda switches. Now, what would a keyboard build video be without a sound test? If you made it to the end, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like on it to support the channel. Stay safe, stay classy, and as always, Wang out.